This is What Started Your Fire, where we explore the stories and insights, tactics, and best practices of first responders and emergency support personnel. Get inspired, get informed, get involved. Let's roll.
Welcome back to What Started Your Fire. I'm Chad Darr. I'm joined today by Patrick Howle of the Tarrant Police Department in Tarrant, Alabama. How are you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Great.
Was wondering if you could just share with us to start out, what started your desire in a career in law enforcement?
Well, it started the emergency services period. I started out with the fire department.
Okay.
And I'd in fifth grade, I had my parents was they were association with the fire department where I lived in Center Point, Alabama, and they were my dad was president of the fire board, and so of course the fire chief would come by our house all the time, and so he asked me one time, he said, you want to go with me we're having a practice fire. And I said, heck yeah, I love it. So I went with him on this practice fire, and it was awesome. It was great. But right in the middle of that, they had gotten a call on a head-on collision between, a motorcycle and a truck. Mm-hmm. So he says, get in the car, we got to go. And so I went with him, and I remember that whole ride to the scene. It was just, to a fifth grader, the lights and the sirens and going fast and going through lights. And, it was real exciting. So, we get to the scene, and of course he tells me not to look, and you don't tell a fifth grader not to look, Right. So, but it was pretty graphic, but nevertheless, that's what bit me. That emergency service, that going on that call, that rush, that adrenaline, that kind of nicked it. And so he got me a scanner so I could start listening. And I started out as a dispatcher with the fire department, and I was volunteer firefighter as early as I could be one, and got hired on, as full time with dispatching. Then I went on to Birmingham Fire later on, dispatching for them before I got in police. But my policing had started while I was at the sheriff's department, and at the fire department. The sheriff's department had a reserve program, and deputies used to come by the fire department all the time. And, I said, hey, won't you come? Same thing. Hey, won't you come ride with me? And I was like a fifth grader again at the age of, 21.
Right.
So, I hopped in the car with them, and we rode around, and it did it. That was it. And it was too much sitting around at the fire department for me. It was just a lot of boring times then. It's not now. They're getting it now. So they're one of the busiest fire departments around.
Sure.
But at the time, it was just too much sitting around. I wanted more action. 21, I'm ready to go. So I joined the reserves in 1991, and I've been doing it ever since. So as soon as I joined the reserves, I became sergeant later on, and after academy, and then I got on our personnel board list in our county and got hired on with another agency. And I was there for about 16 years. So I fulfilled 2 or 3, different positions there that was really rewarding, SWAT and what have you. So it's been with me most of my life.
Sure.
And
sure.
So it's about all I know. I've tried venturing out, and for a little bit, and it didn't work out. I just and the whole time I was not in law enforcement, I felt naked in a way. I felt a little lost, and so as soon as I got back in it, I just felt this ease come across me, and I felt like, well, I'm home. So even though it's gotten more dangerous, I guess, as you could say,
sure,
it was still comforting.
Sure. So if we rewind back a little bit to your days as a
Sure.
dispatcher, you were also volunteering with the fire service at that time. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was working Monday through Friday, day shift at the fire department. And then on Friday afternoons, I would leave and hop in go and change clothes, go to the sheriff's department. And it was only 2 or 3 blocks away. And I would get in the car and I would patrol from 3 o'clock till 6 a.m. the next day. It was about a 16-hour shift. Okay. But you couldn't drag me away. I couldn't get enough of it, and I had to force myself to go home and go to sleep. But as soon as I went to home, got to bed at, 3 o'clock at shift change again, I was back there and I did another 16. Sunday was my only downtime that I tried to recover, get ready for the next week, Monday through Friday, but I loved it. And then, sometimes during the week I'd help out with something. So
sure.
If they got low.
Tell me a little bit about the differences being a dispatcher versus being out in the field. I would imagine that that adrenaline hit is different when you are kind of over the phone and over the radio directing on what's happening versus actually being hands-on.
And I had that discussion. As a matter of fact, we've got a new dispatcher at our police department, and I was explaining to her that it's a big difference when you're on the phone with someone, and it's you hear everything, you want to react, but you're limited. You're limited to just telling a unit or dispatching or whatever. So you're kind of left most of the time with unanswered questions. You don't know how the call turned out. A lot of times there's a lot of questions, how'd they end up? Were they okay? Or, and I think that's one of the downfalls, and not being out there and knowing that side of the business. The one thing I think it ought to be mandatory that everybody go through sit and dispatch before they hit the road, and vice versa. Dispatch ought to go to the road because they need to know we might be busy at a car dealing with somebody when they're trying to, ramble off a tag to us. I just think it would be if they had that knowledge of what was going on. I explained it. I explained to her that when I was working at Birmingham, I worked 3 to 11, and the phone did not stop ringing. So when I was off work, I unplugged everything in my house that made noise. But the stress level was immense. I would get off at 11 o'clock, and it would be 2 o'clock before I would get to sleep. My first shift as a full-time police officer was a night shift, 7 to 7, 12 hours. I worked those 12s. I got off at 7 and I almost fell asleep going home. I mean, it's just the difference in stress. It's a different kind of stress. You can do something most of the time about the stress when you're a patrol or on fire or whatever. You've got an outlet. You can see that answer. You can see the ending, and it helps out. Being behind, not knowing, and just being in a room, you're hearing all this stuff. It's quite frustrating. I was able to tell a grandmother how to do CPR on her baby, and by the time the paramedics got there on the scene, they were able to revive the child. The grandma revived the child, and so that was rewarding because the lieutenant called up there, and of course they gave me a little recognition and all for it, and it was rewarding for that. But the main thing was that I know that grandmother did everything I told her to do, and a great outcome came of it. She was able to get her grandchild back. Yeah. And paramedics didn't have to do anything, so the lieutenant on the truck was pretty happy.
And that, statistically speaking, when somebody's doing CPR, the outcome is not typically survival, right?
No,
and
it's
so
not. It's
having somebody that you're guiding through who may not have been trained in how to do that and may not have a lot of experience on knowing, especially on an infant, chest compressions and breathing and how much you do and how quickly, and having the adrenaline and everything running. I mean, to be a part of that, that's pretty amazing to have that.
It was neat. It was real neat.
Tell me a little bit about those those wins that happen every so often that mean so much. Does that help you get through the other pieces that are a little bit harder to kind of carry on your shoulders?
That gets through your bad days. And what I mean by my bad days is, the days that you're getting fussed at, or the citizens are not liking the police today, or you can't make anybody happy. You can't solve everybody's problem. And so, it gets frustrating. I did have an incident on a robbery, armed robbery, where the guy robbed a jewelry store, and I was able to get the information of the vehicle that he was in, and actually see that vehicle going down the road. So I was able to get in it. Well, he had carjacked that vehicle, so there's 2 hostages in the car, and I was able to chase this individual for a while, but he was shooting at me the whole time. So it was quite of a challenge to. You can't shoot back. You got hostages. A lot of safety issues with that. And I just had to follow and keep with him until I could get some help. And then it took about 15 minutes. He popped off about 8 rounds, and we were able to get him blocked, got him out. I know when I approached the car, he went and fired at me one more time, about 5 feet from me, point blank level, but it jammed. Thank God. And I was able to wrap my hand around his gun and get him out. Both the hostage out, all the money that was taken from the individuals at the jewelry store, their wallets, all of the rings, everything that was taken was returned. Nobody was hurt. One ring that was up underneath the car was about $20,000. So the owner of it was a mom and pop type jewelry store, and owner was very, very happy. He got everything back. And I was just happy nobody got hurt. Nobody got shot and killed, because he had already told he had stole the phone from one of the occupants in the car and said, he was talking to his acquaintances and said, I'm going to kill this cop and I'll get back with you. So he was planning. And matter of fact, I've got parole, a pardon hearing coming up on that individual in December. So I'm hoping to be able to go to that meeting and voice my opinion to keep him in prison.
Yeah.
So he got life, but we're going to try to. But he's got option of parole in 20. So that's coming up.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that on when the next call comes up, or 6 months down the road? Talk a little bit about kind of clearing your head and being able to get to that next call without that incident or examples of that incident kind of weighing on you.
Well, you take each call as it is. You take each call by, one at a time, and you evaluate each one different. You can't treat everyone the same, because it's not. My going on 32 years of policing, I just haven't seen where every call is identical. It's just not that way. And you got to go in with the mindset that, okay, I've got a call on a barking dog complaint. It's going to be the same every time, because it might be different. It might be a wolf out there that's barking, you don't know. So, you just, if I guess I had to learn how to do that. I couldn't answer the call in my head before I got there. So, and I think a lot of my rookies that I see come through, they get repetitive on some of these calls. Some of these alarms, same alarm going off every night. It's a burglary alarm, and at a business, and they know it's somebody closing up or opening up, or they leave a cat inside or what have you, and sets off motion detectors, and they get complacent. And complacency, I believe, is kills more officers than anything. Mm-hmm. Lack of training and complacency, being too lax on these calls.
Sure.
And I agree. It's happened to me. And it still does. It still tries to creep up on you, and it's just a fight that you got to put in your mind that, this might be it. This might be, it sounds like a little call or nothing to it, but this might be the fight of your life. You don't know what you're going to face. Right. So, and I guess that's what keeps me in the business, is that unknowing on each call, Right. It's it. And I believe it's a calling. I believe it's definitely a calling that not everybody's meant for this job. Not everybody's meant for fire service or dispatching, or I'm not meant to collect, climb cell towers, for God's sake. So, right. I tried that, and it's just not for me. So, I believe wholeheartedly that we're picked to do this. It's just, I had no idea I'd be doing this as a little kid. I kind of had an idea when I was a little kid, but I was aiming actually all through high school to go into sports medicine. I was an athletic trainer and had a scholarship at UAB as athletic trainer for the women's volleyball and the baseball team. So sports medicine was my goals, and that's what I was supposed to be doing. And then I came in and told my dad my second year that I was quit and became going to be a cop. And I think I gave him a coronary.
Did he understand a little bit just with his term with his service on the fire board? Did he understand it?
Yeah. My mom became vice president later on the board and would go down and ride with him every once in a while. She loved it. So, they were very supportive with me going into the police department, and scared, which is normal. I've got a kid that's, my boy's 24, and, he was thinking about going into the police work or fire. I said, somehow I think he read me too much, because he says, you never wanted me to go. And I said, well, I didn't ever want you to go. It's just, I don't want you to go.
Right. Right.
So,
right.
But, it's just different. The job has changed so much in the years that I've started to where we are now.
Yeah.
This thing, just all kinds that's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the new officers, coming out of the academy or new to the department, what kind of pieces of advice do you give them based on all the stuff that you've learned from fire service to dispatching to being on the street? What are your words of wisdom that you share with them?
The main thing is manage your stress. Stress management, I think, is very, very important. I had to learn that the hard way. I learned that years ago when, I basically was having a mental breakdown, and I didn't know it. I didn't have any hobbies. All I did was work. If I wasn't working my regular job, I was working side jobs, making ends meet. And, it's just the way it was. Police officers don't make a lot of money. And I had 2 kids, and I was doing everything possibly I could to put bread on the table. And I was wearing myself thin. And, I had something snapped in my head one day, and I was I was just numb. So, I went to and sought help, and that was a life changer, literally a life changer. He said, get a hobby. I said, well, I don't fish, I don't hunt, and it's too cold, and it gets too hot for fishing, and both of those cost too much to even get into. I said, you know how much a boat is? It's $40,000 for a boat. And I'm like, so I did. I got a motorcycle, and that was it. That was my freedom. And I'd get out and ride, and I would come back, and I felt washed. I felt great. Until I started using it to work. Right. I used it for doing funeral escorts then. So it was but it's good. It's good. Relax. I find whatever hobby you can get. That's what I tell them.
Okay.
I tell them that, and going on calls, take a deep breath. We've got officers that's already been in numerous accidents just because they rush. And, I just try more than anything. I try to emphasize, if you don't get there, you cannot help. You're doing no good if you're wrapped around a pole. And so just slow down. Just that half second's not going to matter.
Right.
You've got to get there. And you tell them, but it goes in one ear out the other. They've got to learn most of the time on their own, because they're type A. They're type A, and we all are, and we're hard headed. And that's why we can do this job.
Right.
Is part of that hard headedness. So,
right.
I try to emphasize more of the, spend time with your family, have your downtime, no matter what it is. If you, watch movies, or some guys read, some guys hunt, some guys do different things. And if you're into that, and that takes you away from this job, no matter what field you're in, if it lowers your stress, then do it.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Patrick, I appreciate you sharing your experiences and words of wisdom with us today. Thank you for your service, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. What Started Your Fire is a production of Ultra Bright Lightz, who invites you to visit us at ultrabrightlightz.com and explore our emergency lights and lighting technologies. Ultra Bright Lightz, spelled with a Z.com.